Welcome everyone to the Just a Conversation podcast. So of course, we are coming to you from an undisclosed place in an undisclosed time of the day, in an undisclosed day as well. Just to have a conversation. Hence the name of the show, Just a Conversation. This show is meant to be pretty free flow. And this is honestly just so that me and my boy Lenny can have some fun. So honestly, we'll just go with the flow. But today, I guess we're gonna start with talking about a little bit about COVID and everything that's been going on lately. Because of course it affects us all.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's also kind of weird that we're doing it, the first episode separately in, not in the same place, but online as, we got kind of used to it, no, though, because of COVID, to be fair.
Yeah, it's a pretty trash setup, both of us recording on our phones and hoping that something decent will come out of this, but we'll see.
Yeah, we can upgrade
Um,
as we go on.
yeah, obviously, we'll see what happens. But in any case, in terms of COVID and everything, I feel like a lot of people are quick to dismiss that, you know, they're very, I would say, short-term minded, and it's something that really bothers me in a way. I think I would say,
Mm.
it's just not it's not over yet, and I think a lot of people have the perception that it's over when I feel like it's completely not. A lot of people are just having this attitude, and I see it in the city where I live in. That it's just they don't care anymore. I mean, even inside restaurants and stuff today, when I went to pick up some food, the waitress wasn't wearing a mask anymore. Thankfully, the chef was still, but literally the waitress didn't care enough to wear it, and now there's a whole new variant going around. And we're just rolling the dice again. Like it's like we never learn anything. I swear. I
Yeah.
understand you can be frustrated, but I just don't understand how we can make the same mistakes over and over again and then just in the end point the finger at each other. When
No,
in the it was all of us. It's all of us just ignoring it at this point.
of course. I mean, the thing is, people are really sick of it. I mean, it's been more than a year now of constant caution and restrictions and this and that. But yeah, I mean, I agree, people are really short-minded. They don't realize that even though, like, for example, vaccination rates, especially in Europe and the US and stuff, the vaccination is going pretty well, but there's still a lot of places around the world where it's not. And as you mentioned, we're having new variants as well popping up.
Yeah, I
And
mean, not to mention the Delta variant, the one
yeah,
that's meant to bring COVID back strong.
yeah, COVID
Um,
come to
but
making it
I
back.
think the scariest thing about the Delta variant is that people are saying that vaccines can only be 60% to 80% effective on stopping you from getting the virus, and then 88% on making sure the virus is not um, deadly in a way, right?
Yeah.
But the figure that worries me the most is that 60 to 80%, right? Like
Mm.
now, also people who are vaccinated, which obviously we both are,
Yeah.
big up vaccination.
Hell yeah.
It's the smart choice. But of course, we want to feel like it's over, and in a way, we want to feel that freedom, right?
Mm.
But it's just not yet, guys. It's not yet, and I feel like a lot of people don't get that through their mind, and
Yeah,
it,
that's
it
the misconception of it, because people feel like, okay, I got the vaccine, I'm good. I mean, technically, to a certain extent, you are protected. You're probably not gonna get like a serious version of it, but at the
yeah,
same
of
time, you still
course.
transmit it to other people, and who knows? Maybe they aren't vaccinated or couldn't get vaccinated for certain reasons, or they just get really unlucky and get like a serious version of it, and that's what people still don't realize. Just because you're vaccinated, the virus doesn't go, it
Yeah,
doesn't
that,
disappear.
that
It's still
that's
there.
I think people are just missing the point with these variants, which is that although these variants might not be deadlier, which we are so lucky that they're not,
Mm.
because if one of them was deadlier, I think it would have a like we would just go back to day zero
Oh, for
basically.
sure, for
Yeah.
sure.
So if thank God none of these variants are increasingly deadly. Of course, some of them are slightly more, but it's not an overall change that completely changes the game, right? But where
Mm.
these mutants shine is when their way of transmission is so much more effective than the original strain that even though you might not get a serious, variant,
Yeah.
or like you only feel bad for 2 or 3 days and you'll feel fine, the people around you is the people you should be worried about, especially when we're talking about young people.
Mm.
Of course, I'm not saying don't protect yourself, or if you don't have any contact with any old people. Obviously, it's a game of luck in the end, and the game of chance completely on how your body will react to the disease. But even more so when you have like direct contact, even with your parents or with your grandparents, even more. It You have to think more about them than about you, and I feel like people are so fast to want to escape the whole situation when they've seen that the most effective results come from waiting, which is so
Mm.
ironic, isn't it? Right? Like the most effective medium against the virus we have is quarantining and waiting.
Yeah.
And that proved so effective at the beginning that there was a period of grace, as you call it,
Yeah.
in Europe because of it in late fall, right? Because
Mm.
everyone quarantined and then all of a sudden everyone was open again because you couldn't even see the virus anymore for a while. But because we rush to open things, is that, things go badly.
Yeah. Of course.
It's it's pretty ironic.
Yeah, no, it is, it is. But I mean, yeah, it's the thing, especially in today's society. I mean, everything is moving so fast, and I mean, on one hand, I completely understand when the government tells people to stay inside for extended periods of time. You can't do this, you can't do that, and of course, it's for the greater good, obviously. But at the same time, yeah, it's a bit hard to expect people to just be fine with it and be like, oh yeah,
Of
sure, I'm
course.
gonna be stuck in my house for like the next
Of
month and
course, I
just go to
understand that, and I'm
groceries.
not saying we should go to a quarantine whatsoever. I feel like we're
Mm.
relatively past that, depending on how the variant behaves, right?
Yeah, yeah,
But I just feel like, of course, we all want to get out of this as soon as possible. I mean, we are college students, and this has affected our not. I mean, our livelihoods not so much, obviously, because we're students, but in terms of life experience
mm.
and having that that unique experience that college really brings, we got stitched up and nobody really seems to care about it anyway.
Yeah,
And we are, I mean, known by the media and the people as one of the most impatient groups. And I believe that's logically so, because we just got out into being able to be independent, right?
mm.
There's a certain excitement to being independent and being able to make your own choices, um, being able to finally do everything by your own. And of course, uh, I love that freedom. But
Mm.
right now, you just what's the payoff in the end? If you take that risk and then you meet someone that you know is close to you, or you want to see your grandparents again, then you need to be a little bit more careful. Even if you're vaccinated, wear a mask, like that kind of thing, until things really are in the clear. Because I feel like people just think that, oh, it's over now, which it really isn't, in my opinion.
No, I completely agree. I mean, we're still the situation is improving. Obviously, I mean, you can see that almost everywhere now. But yeah, it's definitely it's not over
and
yet.
and it's all very relative, because people say like, oh, it's over, but then you see places like India, and
Yeah,
then it looks like even worse than ground zero, right?
yeah,
It looks like
yeah. That or
basically an apocalypse, right?
exactly, or
So
Brazil as well. Brazil was also hit
yeah,
pretty hard.
exactly. And it's these lower income places where it's been hit the most. And now that it's over, are you just gonna, go out to party and forget the rest of the world? I mean, the one of the biggest disadvantages of living in our world today is that pandemics are more risky than ever, basically. Because
Yeah,
The
easier
world
to
is so
spread.
globalized now. Yeah, exactly. It's a fact that most diseases are spread through human engineering, human
Mm.
transportation, and that becomes a seemingly increasing problem as our transportation becomes more efficient.
Yeah,
Oh, it,
definitely.
it's just it just becomes like a complete cutoff, as if we were living in two different worlds. In some ways, of course, we're living in two different worlds. They have a different culture. They might have different problems that you have. They might
Mm.
be living far away from you. But in the end, them still being in trouble still means that you're in a substantial amount of trouble, in my opinion.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, because you don't know like what can develop there and how easily it can actually spread from there.
Yeah.
So yeah, that no, I completely agree. I mean, yeah, that it's also kind of interesting that even though we're so globalized, even though like you literally have access to basically the whole world from your phone in your hand and stuff,
Yeah.
it's still that big disconnect, I think, between kind of, yeah, exactly as you said, like it's almost like living into different worlds just because they're far away and have a different culture and you
But
don't really have contact with them.
that's the funny part about the internet, right? That it creates the great disconnect that we all so much love about it. All of a sudden, you're not yourself anymore, but you're just the person who you want to be online, right? I mean, you can
That's
see it on Instagram, on Reddit, on anywhere you want. People are just trying to make themselves into a better version of themselves in whatever platform they want. And that's obviously, of course, by having this information all the time in your pocket means you can learn infinite,
mm,
and we use it at no like measure of efficiency. We use it for mostly entertainment, and that comes with its price, of course, because even though we know that that's happening over there, entertainment is so easily accessible now, that it's so easy to forget about everything. I mean,
yeah,
now we're so our attention span and our empathy span is decreasing. I feel like
no, for sure.
now it's like 2 seconds and you forget about something you watched like 2 days ago.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And plus, I mean, let's not get started on the whole misinformation and fake news and everything that's out there, which is also not just like impacting our day to day lives, just like as we've seen in, you know, no, not politics, for example, and stuff like that, but it's also when it comes to pandemics as well. I think it had such a huge impact when it comes to, for example, the vaccines. The information, the misinformation that's going on with that, or the misinformation that was going on with masks and everything is just it's also like a huge factor that contributes to it.
Yeah, of course. And then of course there is the conspiracy theorists.
Oof, yeah, let's not get started on that.
They're a funny addition to the internet, aren't they? They just like to mix the pot and see what happens. And
It's
the worst part with that kind of thing is that there will be people who actually genuinely will believe that for the rest of their lives. Like,
that's what I was gonna
people
say.
don't think about it before they publish, especially when we're talking about a media company, because for them it's all about clicks, right? If
Yeah,
you
of
get a click,
course.
you win. Especially in Facebook, if you get a like, you win, basically.
Yeah, of
That's the
course,
most you
of
want from
course.
them. So if if you were to post something scandalous that you know is obviously misinformation, especially on Facebook or even some of the bigger media outlets
Mm.
nowadays, some people will literally go to their grave believing that misinformation you wrote, and that shouldn't be that way at all.
No, for sure, and that's why I kind of when you said it, like the whole thing with misinformation. I mean, conspiracy theories. It's funny. I mean, to a certain extent, it definitely is hilarious. But when you think about it, people taking it seriously and everything, it also becomes really, really dangerous because you have everything from kind of harmless conspiracy theories like, okay, the Earth is flat. Yeah, sure. I mean, go for it. It's not really gonna impact anyone's life. But when you have people who, for example, the conspiracy theories with the vaccine, and all of a sudden you have huge percentages of people, not just in the US or like some or places in Europe, but like across the world that are like, oh, maybe I won't really get vaccinated. That
Yeah,
becomes dangerous then. It's not just impacting the people that
and
believe in that
and
stuff, but everyone
it's all
else.
because the internet is built as if we can trust everyone and everything we read on it, right? Like
Mm.
the whole way the internet was built is it's such a huge network that expands everywhere, but the trust that was given to so many people to have free access to it, right?
Yeah.
Just makes it as if we trust everyone on it as well,
Mm.
right? So that's it's a funny thing, and that's why you also see, like, for example, cryptocurrency being a big thing as well, because then people want to have more control, and really you can't trust anyone on the internet, right? That's basically what crypto is for, because you can't trust anyone.
Mm.
And it's so funny that the internet is built as this, when you first access it, it just you wonder, and like it's so amazing, and you literally have the world at just a few keystrokes, right?
Mm.
But that comes with a big cost, and I think our generation is going to live through it. I think
Yeah.
we're one of the fastest, like, in terms of society changing. We're gonna see changes being implemented so much faster than before that we won't even be able to catch up with them.
Yeah. No, I mean, I completely agree with that.
Yeah,
Completely.
and it's crazy because in the past, like, if you think 200 years ago, we didn't even have trains 200 years ago. Now we have, like, literally everything you want to know at any moment, wherever you are. Like, it doesn't matter, you can find out anything,
Yeah.
and you can do anything as well. It's not find out even, it's
Yeah.
do as well,
Do.
because now everything you can do through the
Mm.
internet as well.
Literally, yeah.
I mean, I could be out in the streets and then just buy a heart on the black market, literally.
I mean, yeah, that's hella extreme, but I mean,
I mean,
it
it's
literally is.
literally a fact.
I know, yeah, but yeah, that's exponential progress for you. Actually, when I was on the internet, and I found like this really cool kind of photo that was, it was a billboard that Apple put out in, I don't know exactly the year, but it was quite a while back, and it was, I think it was like 1,000 favorite songs in your pocket. It was an ad for an iPod, like the first generation of the iPod that came out, and now there is literally, it was access to, I don't know, 100 million songs on your wrist, and it was like, like the Apple Watch and everything. It's
Yeah,
crazy how exponentially things just
yeah, things are going at a crazy pace, and we're not even talking about only, like, technology that concerns the internet. We're also talking about, like, how we literally modify genes. Like, have you heard of genetic modification and everything, and
Mm-hmm.
scientists being able to literally identify what genome is part of certain diseases, and increases the likelihood of these diseases. And now they're speaking about basically making super babies, where you take a sperm and you make it perfect,
Yeah.
and you literally can choose your color. They call it designer babies, apparently, and you can choose your eye color and your hair color. Of course,
What?
nobody has done it yet.
Yeah. Yeah.
But honestly, I wouldn't be surprised in a year or two we hear about this thing happening. I mean, it's not only about, like, technology influencing our society, but now it's literally influencing how humans progress as biological beings, which is crazy in my mind, right?
Um, it,
It wasn't even thought about, like, maybe 20 years ago.
yeah, I remember when we were growing up, and like when they made, like, what was it, like the first clone of the sheep and everything, that was like
Yeah.
already futuristic as hell. Like, it was crazy at the time, and now, like, we're doing, like, I just read today, I read that, like, apparently the first patient got a vaccine for cancer in, like, the
Wow.
first trial that they're doing, which is also like, it's mind-boggling. But the thing with this whole thing, I mean, in my opinion, is this is kind of, especially these like designer babies that you mentioned and everything, is I feel like it's more like, at least for now, it's kind of for the rich and stuff, and that
Oh,
is why
yeah.
the
And that's
disparities
where
are
the biggest problem comes
yeah.
in, right?
Yeah, because the disparities between, the rich and the poor are becoming so apparent. Like I was reading last time, and it was like apparently during the pandemic, or in the last 2 years, the poorest people in the world lost 3.4, was it 3.4 trillion, I think, in wealth. Like the poorest people across the world, and the richest people in the world gained 3.4 trillion in wealth.
Yeah, I mean
Like,
it. You can tell like now it's not only gonna be about rich people. Literally, you know, it's always been the saying in my life. I've always remembered my mom telling me, like, money can buy you so many things, but it will never be able to buy you another second on this earth.
mm,
And now I'm slowly starting to question that. Now I'm like, it can buy you many years on earth, probably. And
it's true.
that's not a good way to go about, like, I wouldn't feel comfortable living in a world where I know that a rich person can design a baby that lives to 120 easily,
Mm,
and immediately has so much more of an advantage, not only in terms of economically, which is already a huge disadvantage that many people are given,
yeah,
but also literally biologically, they
yeah,
become the best
superior.
man
Yeah.
in the world.
No, I completely agree. I completely agree with that. That kind of reminds me of what's the movie called? Like where the currency around the world becomes time, and once your time runs out, you die. Then you have like the super rich people that have crazy
Yeah,
amounts
I
of
know what you
time.
mean. The one with the arms.
Yeah, yeah, exactly,
I don't know what
exactly.
it's called.
Forgot, but yeah, that reminds me literally of that kind of.
Yeah, I mean, you'll be able to literally buy more time on this earth now.
Hmm.
That
Yeah.
that 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 shouldn't be a thing. That
Yeah.
really, really shouldn't be a thing.
Yeah. Nah. I mean, definitely not. But we're heading there, whether we like it or not, I guess. So.
Yeah, truly, truly. Well, in any case, I thought we should move on to our next prevailing topic we were planning to discuss.
True. True. Some
So
less.
obviously we might lose some of our friends listening to the podcast now because now we're going to be talking about stocks.
Yeah. Yeah.
Obviously, one of our closest friends and flatmates probably just shut off the whole thing.
It's like nope.
But yeah, so right now we'll be talking about AMC and how we are both apes in this community.
Yeah. Definitely.
Um, so basically, what I want to start to say is just a brief run through of both of our stories. I mean, uh, I got into it basically around March, into GameStop, looking to be a part of the short squeeze. Um, and then, yeah, I've been riding the wave ever since then. Then AMC picked up some attention. I invested when it was $9. And then I told my boy Lenny here to invest as well in both of those. And now we're here and we are waiting for the inevitable short squeeze.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah.
So, but the funny thing is, it can happen literally at any moment. So we could be reviewing this, audio in like a
Yeah.
week from now, and we could be substantially richer. Can you believe that?
I mean, yeah. I mean, I have my stuff open on my computer right now and just like checking it out as we speak. But the cool thing about the stock itself, I mean, is because it's not just about the stock. It's not just about getting richer. I think it's also the movement, and what the movement stands for is really really important, which people don't get, because a lot of times people will think about GameStop and AMC will be like, oh yeah, these are like meme stocks. It's just like a bunch of people from Reddit, they're getting together just trying to make some money. But it's not about making money. It's, if you look at the movement and what it stands for, is basically we want a fair market.
I mean,
Because
of course. I think it's just that people are missing the point completely, right? Which is that a lot of the people currently in the stock market as professionals. So when we're talking about hedge funds, day traders, etc. Um, even though they claim that the market is even, everyone can trade. You know, everyone can buy any stock they want and become a millionaire themselves. But in the end, there is such a substantial inequality between us because they have strengthening numbers, and that is not fair to the rest of us because it incentivizes the system literally incentivizes for them to organize attacks as they please, whether they boom or bust, and
Yeah.
it's not right for the rest of the market. In fact, one of the most disturbing things about the market, and I obviously Lenny knows this, we've discussed it before, is that politicians in the U.S. actually cannot get charged with insider trading,
Yeah.
which is just the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard in my life because it would just make sure that hedge funds and politicians immediately love each other.
Of course.
And of course, they're going to, favor the law a little bit for them, or, it's just not, doesn't seem fair. It seems like a system built by the rich for the rich. It's obviously a problem, and we are trying to address it. We're trying to say, hey, look, if we actually show you what the power of the market is, we could squash you like a bug. Because when we
course.
combine together, you're like nothing to us, even with the billions of dollars you have. Because we are the majority of the market in the end. You are the 1%. But
Yeah.
we want you to change this, otherwise we'll just keep on squishing you. And
Yeah.
that's what we're doing. And
No,
I love
and
it.
yeah, that I mean, I agree. I love it as well. And when you mentioned, like kind of, it's a system by the rich for the rich. It's also the other two. Yeah, first of all, the money inequality. I mean, a retail investor. We have only so much money that we can invest.
Yeah,
These people
especially
have
as college
millions,
students.
exactly, especially as college students, and even like
Yeah.
later in life. I mean,
Of course.
there's only
yeah,
so
yeah.
much you'll be investing, but these hedge funds and these large organizations that have millions, if not even like billions of dollars that they can invest. And the second thing, which I also think is extremely important when it comes to the market and the whole inequality within the market, is information and the inequality of that. It's such a huge disparity between the information that these hedge funds have access to and the information that a retail investor has. And even if you have access to like certain information that, both parties have access to it, the time, for example, hedge funds or like these other organizations, they'll have access to this information almost instantaneously, whereas the retail investors, we get access to this information a lot later. And of
And
course, the
even
market
then, it's
doesn't favor
always
you.
incomplete. Even if we get it later, it's always seems to be incomplete as well. So honestly, the thing that bothers me about that the most, of course, is that we don't have everything we need to know to be able to make a wise investment. Of course, there are a lot of tools that we can use currently to, find a wise investment. There are many ways to do that. It could be based on what you think the future is going to be or what you think the value of a company is. But I think the most ironic thing about this whole information, the fact that it's not spread out in a fair manner is that hedge funds and financial market makers and all of these big institutions that have been in the stock market forever say that, oh, come on, look at the data or whatever. But we don't have the same data. We literally do not have the same data. So even if you say, look at the data, from my side, the data is completely incomplete. You have the whole picture. You're basically playing on a safe bet. This is the only time we've turned them around onto an unsafe bet, probably, literally.
Yeah.
I mean, every other time it was basically guaranteed.
Yeah, no, I mean, and that's why I like this movement, because it's not just about making money, but it's about pointing exactly these things out, like how unfair to the retail investor the market is, and just address these issues. And like Matt Kors said, which I mean that I know
Prophet.
the prophet. We love him, but exactly like he said, and that really stuck in my mind. We're not, even if it's not an equal. I mean, if it's not a fair market, we want an equal market. You know, even if it's not going to be, you know, completely fair, we want equality. We want access to equal information and stuff.
Yeah,
You know,
at
so
least that.
at
That's
least
the
that.
bare minimum we need. There are obviously a lot of other things to change about how hedge funds are currently working, about how they obtain the information, about how they communicate with each other.
Hmm.
But as it stands right now, I think one of the biggest things in the movement is having equal information for all of us and
Yeah.
ensuring that this kind of thing, where obviously they are short I mean, they're obviously what's it called, phantom shares.
Yeah.
Yeah, phantom
No,
shares.
yeah.
Yeah, it's so obvious that they're here. Um, Please do something. I mean, don't let them go away scot free. Um, and you can tell they've been doing this forever because this is the first time probably that they've been caught by surprise by a group of people from, you know, their basically their routine of bringing companies with actual people in them with jobs and just completely tanking them on the floor because people think that the stock price doesn't affect the company, but it heavily does. It changes the course of the company, basically. How it can, you know, ask for more money.
Yeah.
It all depends on the stock price. And a lot of people use the stock price as an indicator of how good the company is doing. So, obviously, when you tank a stock and you take it to 1 cent like they want to,
No.
everyone in those, I don't know how many million theaters, are just immediately out of a job. And of course, the only person who benefits from all of this is the hedge fund. Because the person who's paying them is you, the retail investor, because you made the wrong bet. And that's it.
Exactly.
And that's a double loss for society and a one win for rich people. Again.
Yeah.
So I honestly feel like this is a practice that should be put in the bin. And it shouldn't be allowed to happen. Because it's not only that, of course, shorting is something that will always be there. It's something that it should be part of the market. It indicates buyers and sellers. But at the same time, the ability to have naked shorts just creates an incentive to basically destroy a company.
Of course. I mean, definitely. And plus,
Yeah.
I mean, the thing is, it already is illegal. It just so far hasn't been properly enforced because no one really brought it to
that's,
the attention.
that's the most annoying part, right? That it is technically illegal, but nobody seems to care.
Yeah, because it hasn't been brought to the attention of the public. Like people, a lot of people, I don't think really even knew that, you know, those kind of things go on. And now that this has been put out there, and it's also being talked about, you know, by some pretty big media outlets. I think it kind of almost forces certain institutions to actually enforce those laws now. So, you know, fingers crossed, rich people don't get away scot-free again. So, but, you know, time will tell, I suppose.
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
How do you feel about the rest of the market, though, in general?
Honestly, me personally as an investor, I feel really scared for the American economy.
Yeah.
I feel like we are living in a huge bubble that is happening because obviously there was the drop off after the pandemic, which people see as the breaking of the bubble. But since then, we have already recuperated and we're going higher than that. The S&P 500 reached an all-time high again on Friday. So it's obviously there is still something motivating the market to keep going. And for me, that's the euphoria of things slowly opening up again. People are having these expectations that because they have money, it means that the economy is doing well, which in theory it should be. But in reality, when the US is printing trillions of dollars, I mean, what do you really expect to happen to that kind of economy? Like,
Exactly.
I obviously think that there should be some sort of, you know, correction or, I don't know. I just see that obviously inflation is something that the US doesn't want to address, and you can tell by the way they speak about it.
Definitely, yeah.
They just say, "Oh, don't worry, by 2023 everything will be fine." You know, and then you're like, "But what about the 2 years in between? Then what do we expect?" Or I mean, how do you know that things will be
Yeah.
fine when you've literally printed like half of the GDP? I mean, what in what world are we living where just printing money is the solution? I thought we already went through this in the past and realized that this just causes more problems. No, it
Mm.
seems like we're making the same mistakes from 100 years ago. But at the same time, I feel like now, because the stock market is so popularized and more than ever, because especially in our generation, it has come a lot more about, you know, cryptocurrency, making money,
Yeah.
being more financially responsible. And those things are good in my mind. But that's just fueling more to the fire. And I think there will be a point where we even realize, and that's when the bubble bursts, that the prices are so high that it doesn't make sense anymore,
Yeah.
right? So obviously that point will come at some point. Who knows if it's 2 to 3 years down the line, or if it doesn't happen at all. But I do know that definitely the USD is not having a good time right now.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you. It's not having a good time. I don't think it's going to continue having any better time because, by the look of things, I mean, the future isn't bright for it. And yeah, I think that's the kind of problem I have with this, like, you know, the market being so accessible to so many retail investors. On one hand, it's fantastic because, everyone should have the right to go out there and invest in the companies they want, become financially, independent, have, financially responsible as well. It's a great thing. I agree with it. But the thing is, a lot of these people don't have either the knowledge or don't know how to get that knowledge of, investing properly, investing wisely.
And by the way, just as a disclaimer, if you're not one of our friends listening to this podcast, obviously we are not financial advisors, and
Yeah.
we are just two college students that barely know what we're talking about. Like we said, this is just a conversation. So,
Yeah.
obviously, we are part of this new movement of people who are highly interested in the stock market. And people might be asking, if you're so scared, then why are you into the stock market? Because the stock market gives you a key to unlocking your future. And that's what I feel like some people don't really realize. And while we're in the bulls, while the bulls are running the race, why not enjoy a little bit of the profit? That's the way I think about it.
Exactly. But the problem is, once the bubble bursts, for example, people not knowing when to get out of the market or, similar things, it will hurt. It will hurt a lot of people as well. A lot of people won't just make a lot of money, but will probably also lose a lot of money. And
Definitely.
that's why I'm so confused, for example, how these certain certain platforms where you can invest, they are giving the accessibility to, those platforms to basically literally kids. For example, I was reading, I forgot exactly the name of the company, but they were started providing accounts for people that are between 13 and 17. And I mean, I'm sorry, but I had no idea about what is going on in the market when I was at that age. I mean, I didn't even know exactly how stocks work and everything. So
Yeah, exactly.
it seems so dumb to me. Plus, there's also the whole, ape movement and everything, which is, on one hand, it's great because, because of all the things that we discussed previously in the, last couple 10, 15 minutes. But at the same time, it's, as most of these people that are part of this movement say, and I'm a huge, I really agree with them, is do your own research. Make your own decisions when you buy, when you sell. You have to do that because, because then you have cases like some youngster who, obviously it wasn't a great decision to borrow money and to buy some GameStop, but he lost a lot of money, and I know it's super depressing to say this on a podcast like this, but he ended up taking his own life because of the debt that you know that he got. So that's like also the
Yeah,
reason that it kind of it's a great thing having access to market, people having access to the market, but also it can be
can
very,
be
very risky.
detrimental to society, literally. I mean, I completely agree with you. I think the biggest problem, I mean, is that the stock market, in a certain sense, and I think people don't understand this enough, is if you're playing in a short amount, in a short time span, right? If we're talking
Yeah,
about you're making a bet for 1 or 2 days, and your plan is to sell after 2 days, then you're making a bet. You're basically going to a casino. You're not believing in something. You're not holding and just really strapping in and saying, okay, I believe this company will be part of the future for the next 1 or 2 years or the next 6 months. And you have a plan going in, and then you know how much you can invest, how much won't hurt you financially, and what your upside is, what your risk is, and then you actually go and invest.
yeah,
But that's not the mentality most people have in markets, right? Most people will say, everyone's on AMC right now. I need to get in, right? I need to, make sure I'm in this. Everyone's hype,
yeah,
and yeah, that's it. That's all I need to know. And then they just blindly wait. And then when it drops, let's say $2 or $3, of course they lose their mind because for them they were planning to sell the same day. It's
yeah.
basically a bet. You're
Of
not doing
course.
anything smart. You're just losing money.
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
And that's part of human emotion, I guess, because it's exciting to invest, and I completely understand that. I mean, I've lost some, of course, not much, because I've been very careful. I mean, as a college student, I don't have much money to spare, but I make sure that whatever money I invest is money that if I lost it, of course it wouldn't be fun to lose it, but it wouldn't affect me in any way where I would lose my house, or
yeah,
I'd be done my house, but like
yeah,
where I could rent, or I won't have money for food. Is just money that I've saved up and I can use towards an asset, and that makes sense. That way of investing makes sense.
yeah. I
Um,
mean, it's super important to
and
leave
I
your
also
emotions
I
out of
also
it.
really respect day traders as well. I'm not saying that in any way their art is discredited, but I'm just saying that if you're doing it, know that you're betting. You're not you're not doing anything smart. That's all I gotta say.
Yeah, it's tough. It's tough, definitely. But I
And
mean,
the yeah. I'm sorry. Do you want to go ahead or do you want me to go?
no,
I
no,
just
you
want to
get.
say one thing more that I found funny is that my brother actually I showed him how much profit I have. Of course, Lenny knows how much profit I have,
Yeah,
and he said, "Why haven't you sold yet?" And it's so funny to me when people say that because that's just what they expect, right? They expect
mm,
for it to be that easy. You make this amount of money and you get out, and that's it. That's the stock market. But I feel like it's so intricate, and sometimes it's just better to sit back, enjoy the ride, and just invest in what you really believe in. That way you'll be able to sleep at night calmly, um, and you really can just wait till the upside is really there, to
yeah,
get out of your position. You're not in a hurry because you're lending money from someone, right?
exactly. Now, I think at this point it's like really important to mention, and obviously this is not financial advice for anyone listening, but having diversified portfolios, having about, I don't know, 80% of your investments which are relatively safe, I suppose. I mean, of course, you have to do your research and everything on the companies that you want to invest, or like the funds, but having about 80%, which is also maybe long-term investments, stuff that you're not gonna buy now and then sell in a month, but stuff that you're gonna
Keep.
hold for
Yeah.
2-3 years, even longer.
That's
Uh,
the point of this whole
yeah,
thing.
yeah, and then have some of the money that if you lose it, it's not gonna affect you terribly in any way, which you can then, yeah, go have these short term
Short-term fun,
positions. Yeah,
basically.
exactly. You know, it's like go and make some crazy
Which
money
is,
if you
by
can.
the way, what AMC and GME is. By the way,
Exactly, it's a
do
swing
not
trade.
hold forever with GME and AMC.
No, definitely not. I mean, it's until the shorts cover, basically.
Obviously, not financial advice, but still,
Yeah. Yeah.
just saying, don't think that AMC will stay at wherever you want it to go forever.
Of course.
Okay.
It's
It will go
inevitably
up
will
and
come down.
Yeah, exactly.
Inevitably. But yeah.
But I mean, probably the last thing we should talk about is crypto, I guess.
Sure.
I've been slowly actually investing back into crypto, but the way I do it is quite different. I haven't spoken to you about it, so this is the perfect way, I guess.
Okay.
So actually on Coinbase, there is a feature where you can do a recurred payment. Now, I think this might be the safest way to invest in crypto, to be honest. Because the way I do it is, right, I invest 10 euros every day
Okay.
in Bitcoin, Cardano, and Ethereum, right? That's what I
Okay.
do. I'm not saying anyone should, okay?
No.
I'm just saying that's what I do.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
then I just let it run. Just let it run. And there is no possible way of losing in that way. Because then you just invest at the lows, you invest at the highs, and then once crypto actually comes back, which we obviously know that this is not the real value of crypto. I mean, we've seen where it has gone, and we've seen that it will go back. I mean, it's always, it's basically a rule of crypto now.
Yeah. No.
And with Bitcoin, even if we have a 4-year winter, like people are saying, in the end, it will still. I mean, how can you deny it at this point? So that's I think it was an interesting way of investing. And my personal opinion on crypto in general is that I think it's just the logical next step for human society. It doesn't make sense that the only thing we haven't made completely digital is currency when it's one of the things that we need to interact with the most. It makes the most sense to make that digital almost immediately, right? So it's even surprising that it took us this long to accept this kind of change, right? And having that access of immediately being able to send money to someone without having a bank to interfere, or having immediate transfers, having faster transfers, having it's so convenient. I don't understand how you could be against crypto as an idea as a whole, right? And that's why I'm a strong believer of it, because as a futurist, I would see it as one of the main ways you pay. I think in the future, you'll probably just walk out of the grocery store and it'll just take your Bitcoin off you or whatever we're using by then. You'll literally walk out with your groceries and it'll know what you took and how much it needs to deduct, and you just walk out. That's it. That's the future I see.
I mean, the thing is that probably isn't even that far off anyway. I mean, as we talked about before, the exponential, progress of everything, technology and just humanity in general. I mean, who knows? And yeah, I definitely agree. I mean, crypto is, I think, the future, for sure. And I honestly, again, just for anyone, either skipping or just tuning in, it's not financial advice, but I definitely see it as a long-term investment.
Yeah, definitely.
Like buying it and holding it for probably years on end.
Yeah, of course. I mean, it's that kind of investment where basically, of course, you feel late to the party because Bitcoin's worth, what, 30,000 right now as the time of this recording. And it seems like we're all late to the party. But at the same time, are we though? Because do you see Bitcoin being used that widespreadly? Obviously now things are starting to become more accepted when Bitcoin was higher. For example, today actually I was playing chess on chess.com, not sponsored. And I saw you can actually get premium by paying with Bitcoin. I mean, it honestly, like, it's one of those things that you slowly just see integrate into the world. And at one point, it would just become normal. And right now, there are still so many people denying it as a valid form of currency that you're still not late to the party. And I don't think there's a reasonable way of thinking that you are. I think that, honestly, it could go anywhere.
Of course,
Um,
definitely. I mean,
but
the thing with this, like, what I mean, why I kind of understand people saying that it's not a valid form of currency just yet is because it's still so volatile. Like,
yeah,
prices change basically on a daily basis for, pretty big percentages, and the thing is the technology behind them is also not perfect. I mean, one of the main reasons, as we saw, like why Bitcoin fell down was because of just the insane energy consumption that they have
yeah, of
when they
course,
mine the coin.
yeah,
So, obviously the technology behind it is not yet perfect, and also like different coins do different things. Um, but yeah, I mean, in the future as we go on, you know, Bitcoin is already they're already working towards, a greener way of mining it. You also have some other way more sustainable coins, for example, like XRP or Ripple.
yeah,
It's also quite
exactly.
sustainable and also has a completely different function to Bitcoin, of course. But it's yeah. But that's why I think right now, of course, I completely understand why people don't see it as a valid currency, but in the future, I mean, I see it
Yeah,
as
of course.
being a global
I think the
currency.
two biggest problems, or the three, I would say, are the fact that the currency is highly volatile. Of course, when we're talking about any crypto, by the way, we're not talking only about Bitcoin. Any cryptocurrency is gonna be volatile, and that's a rule of cryptocurrency basically because of the way crypto works. It's blockchain, and it's based on supply and demand.
Mm.
And of course, it's gonna be volatile because it's just buyers and sellers. It's like the stock market. Um, but the second thing is safety. People are really afraid that people are using this for nefarious activities, but actually, it's not as common as you would actually think for people to, make Bitcoin transactions untraceable. Actually, a
Mm.
lot of the times you have to register at length before you get a wallet of any sort, and
Mm.
they will have your name. I mean, it's even though you think your transaction is unnoticed and it goes below the radar, uh, all these people have your information. I mean, unless you're really into the, and you're in the dark web and you have your wallet that's, very anonymous, and then you do your nefarious activities, of course, that's a different case. But even then, I read an article recently that says like less than 5% of Bitcoin exchanges are actually nefarious, which is nothing.
Mm.
Just nothing, and it's the basis that Bitcoin was built on, right? Which was to do these kind of activities
Mm.
illicitly. Um, and then the third thing is that it's not regulated. And I think that goes hand in hand with the first one, with the volatility of the market. But I think that's what makes Bitcoin so genius, right? Especially coins as well as Ethereum, that makes it so. It's just a coin for the people and literally by the people. You can't
Mm.
have more than that. I mean, of course, the price is gonna fluctuate, but if you and your market believe in a coin, then you have nothing to worry about. And currency is based on belief. Literally, all of currency is based on belief. If society tomorrow decided not to believe in the USD anymore, then nobody will believe in the USD because it's not a real thing. It's just a fictitious thing we came up with, right? It's the same thing in my mind.
I mean, to a certain extent, for sure, because I
Yeah.
mean, yeah, money was basically made up by the people. I mean, it's. I mean, okay, we can get really, really philosophical at this point and say, yeah, money is a completely made up concept, which, in a certain way, it is. Like,
It is, but it's a genius way of. It's the middleman of bartering, I think.
Exactly, exactly. And some of the currencies, of course, they have stuff behind that supports, like silver reserves, gold reserves. Bitcoin doesn't really have anything like that behind it, for example. So it's a
But
bit.
the USD doesn't. It's a paper-backed bill. That's why they're also printing trillions because they're the ones who regulate it. So
Yeah.
would you rather your government make all the decisions, or would you rather the people of the world make all of your decisions? That's my question, and I choose the people.
I
Me personally, I choose the people. I respect anyone else's opinions, but honestly, if I mean nothing, I don't understand like how some of some people are so blindly to follow as well, because obviously they're doing some bad things with the money. Like nothing is pure, but the fact that everyone has a say in cryptocurrency makes it pure overall, right? Which solves our original problem.
Yeah, I mean, this could be a whole podcast in itself, I suppose, because
Oh yeah,
you
true.
know,
Okay, we can
really
leave it for another day then. The
definitely,
philosophy of
definitely.
money.
Yeah, I mean, to our listeners, if you want us to really go in depth into this stuff, let us know. We can also bring, I have some friends who are really into cryptocurrency. They really know what they're doing. We can, bring a guest on as well, and we can have a whole podcast just dedicated to that episode, not a whole podcast in itself.
Yeah, and let us know if you have any other, ideas you want us to talk about. Obviously, this was just a long conversation between us. It went into many different places, and in the end, I revealed some of my shocking philosophies.
Yeah.
But it's okay. I mean, thank you all for listening.
Yeah. Do let us know
And
if you have any questions, topics that you want us to discuss. Let us know, and we'll try and incorporate them in the next episode.
peace.